let's learn about Boyle's law. Okay, so Boyle's law basically compares the pressure and volume of a gas, how they relate with each other when the temperature and the number of moles are constant. Okay, so what's important to keep in mind out here is that temperature and moles, we're going to call the temperature T and the moles N. These two are constant. Now take a look at this diagram out here. You have a container which is sitting at a pressure of 1 atmosphere. You have a gas enclosed in this container. The volume of this gas is 2 liters. Now it turns out if you increase the pressure, so if you push down on that piston out there, you push it down, okay, to make the volume half of what it was out here, then the pressure that you would need would double. Okay, and that's exactly what Boyle's law says. Okay, so if you want to express this, turns out, if you think about the relationship, as pressure increases, volume decreases. And Boyle's law puts this into a mathematical relationship in this form. So we have volume is directly proportional to 1 over the pressure, because they go in opposite directions, as you can see out here. Okay. Now, if you remove the proportionality sign, we can get volume is equal to a constant. So that's always the rule. To remove the proportionality sign, you add a constant, and then you times it by pressure. And so now if we take, times it by 1 over pressure. So now if I take the pressure on the left side and keep the constant on the right, then this becomes PV is equal to a constant. So that's Boyle's law for you. Now, in addition to this, what you can do is the utility of Boyle's law is, and the utility of having this equal to a constant is, if you have two different conditions, just like we saw in this diagram out here, you have a gas at a certain condition, you change the pressure, the volume changes. If you know 3 variables, you can solve for the 4th. Okay, and that's typically the type of problems you'll see with respect to Boyle's law. So let's see if, since the pressure times the volume is always a constant, if you have an initial state, so let's call this the initial state, not exactly this, but something like this. So if that is my initial state, let's call that initial, and that's my final state. And I'm going to call the pressure at the initial state PI, where I stands for pressure, and the volume at the initial state VI. Then we know by Boyle's law that the product of that is a constant. Okay, and turns out, if we do the same thing for the final state, then the pressure is PF and the volume is VF, where F stands for final, and that is equal to the same constant. Okay, so therefore we can take these two and equate them to each other, which gives us PI VI is equal to PF VF. And now you have an equation. If you know 3 variables, you can solve for the 4th. Now, key thing to keep in mind, temperature and moles are always a constant in Boyle's law. Okay. Now, that being said, you will see in some books or some texts that it will be written as P1 V1 is equal to P2 V2, which is the same thing. You assign 1 to be the initial, 2 to be the final, or you can reverse them. It doesn't matter. It's an equation. And as long as you have them set correctly, you should be fine to proceed. Okay. I hope that made sense. Thank you for watching.